The cantina on Nexus Station hummed with the usual mix of intergalactic chatter and synthesized music. Smoke from various alien substances created a hazy atmosphere that seemed to muffle conversations, except for one table where a massive Corvan mercenary held court. Zektar stood nearly 3 meters tall, his chitinous exoskeleton scarred from countless battles. 4 arms gestured dramatically as he regaled his audience with tales of conquest. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction, as lesser beings hung on his every word. The Thrakari berserkers were child's play, he boasted, his voice a rumbling bass that carried across half the establishment. Those fools thought their rage would save them. I collected 7 of their heads in one hunt. His audience, a mix of smugglers, traders, and wannabe mercenaries, murmured appreciatively. At the bar, a small figure sat alone, nursing a drink that glowed faintly blue. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared unremarkable by galactic standards, barely 1.7 meters tall, soft, pink skin unmarked by battle scars, and clothing that suggested civilian rather than military background. She listened without turning around, her reflection barely visible in the mirror behind the liquor bottles. The Nexari shadow stalkers were more challenging, Zektar continued, warming to his theme. Invisible hunters from a world where darkness reigns eternal. Took me 3 days to track down their pack leader, but in the end, even their stealth couldn't save them. A Velian trader leaned forward eagerly. What about the Korith? I heard their homeworld has gravity 3 times standard. Zektar's mandibles spread in what passed for a grin among his species. Ah, the rock crushers. Their strength was legendary. They could snap steel with their bare hands. But strength means nothing when you can predict their moves. He flexed, his 4 arms simultaneously. I've hunted across 17 sectors, collected trophies from 43 different species. Each one claimed to be apex predators on their homeworlds. The crowd grew larger as other patrons drifted over, drawn by the spectacle. Zektar reveled in the attention, his voice growing louder and more theatrical. The Zenthari hive minds tried to overwhelm me with numbers, he boasted. Thousands of them, sharing thoughts faster than light itself. But what good is perfect coordination when you're facing true predator instincts? He tapped his skull with one clawed hand. I systematically dismantled their entire colony structure. Elena finally turned around, her movement so casual it barely registered. She was human, a fact that would have been unremarkable to most of the galaxy, since humans had only recently joined the galactic community and were still considered a minor species. Excuse me, she said, her voice cutting through the din with surprising clarity. Zektar paused mid-sentence, his compound eyes focusing on the small human female. Several patrons chuckled, assuming she was either very brave or very foolish, to interrupt the famous hunter. Yes, little one? Zektar's tone carried condescending amusement. Elena stepped closer, her hands clasped behind her back in a posture that seemed almost scholarly. I was listening to your stories. Fascinating stuff, really. But I have a question about your hunting techniques. The Corvan straightened to his full height, clearly enjoying this new addition to his audience. Ask away. Perhaps you can learn something about what separates true predators from prey. You mentioned hunting 43 different species, Elena said, her tone conversational. All apex predators from various Deathworlds. Impressive record. Indeed it is, Zektar preened. Elena nodded thoughtfully. But here's what I'm curious about. In all those hunts, across all those species, did any of them walk away? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The cantina's background noise seemed to fade as nearby conversations died. Zektar's mandibles clicked uncertainly. Walk away? He repeated. What do you mean? I am the hunter. They are the prey. Prey doesn't walk away. That's interesting, Elena said, taking another step closer. The crowd instinctively gave her more room, though none could say exactly why. See, where I come from, we have a saying. The most dangerous predator is the one you let get away. Something in her tone made Zektar's exoskeleton plates shift slightly, a defensive reflex he hadn't needed in years. You speak in riddles, human, he growled, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Elena smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both gentle and terrifying. Let me be clearer. You've hunted 43 species, killed every single one you encountered. Never let any escape to learn your methods, adapt to your tactics, or warn others of your kind. She paused, letting the implications sink in. But you've never hunted humans, have you, Zektar? The silence in the cantina was now complete. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. Humans? Zektar laughed, but it sounded forced. Your species barely qualifies as a Deathworlder. Your homeworld is practically a garden planet compared to the hellscapes I've conquered. Elena's smile widened slightly. That's true. Earth is rather pleasant. Lots of water, moderate temperatures, diverse ecosystems, almost pastoral, really. She took another step forward. Of course. That's also where we learned to hunt everything else that lived there. Persistence predators, we were called. Not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most venomous. But we had something special. What? The word escaped Zektar's mandibles as barely a whisper. We learned from our failures. Every prey animal that got away taught us something new. Every predator that bested us became a lesson for next time. We didn't just hunt. We studied, adapted, evolved our techniques. Elena was now close enough that Zektar had to look down to meet her eyes. In that gaze, he saw something that made his predator instincts scream warnings his conscious mind couldn't yet process. 43 species, Zektar. 43 entire species that will never learn to defend against you, never adapt to your methods, never become a challenge. She shook her head sadly. How boring that must have been. What? What are you saying? Elena's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but somehow everyone in the cantina could hear her clearly. I'm saying that when humans hunt, we prefer our prey to survive the first encounter. It makes the second one so much more interesting. The temperature in the cantina seemed to drop several degrees. You see, Zektar, Elena continued, humans have been hunting for millions of years, but we've only been in space for about 50. We're still learning the neighborhood. She turned as if to walk away, then paused. Thanks for the educational opportunity, by the way. Your techniques are quite fascinating. I'll be sure to pass along what I've learned to the others. Others? Zektar's voice cracked. Elena looked back over her shoulder, and for just a moment, Zektar saw her clearly. Not as a small, soft creature from a garden world, but as something far more terrifying. The evolutionary descendant of persistence, predators who had spent millennia learning to hunt everything that moved. Did you really think, she asked softly, that a species like ours would send only one hunter to study the galaxy's apex predators? She walked toward the cantina's exit, her footsteps somehow audible despite the crowd. At the door, she turned back one final time. Enjoy your retirement, Zektar. You've earned it. As the door closed behind her, Zektar finally understood what real terror felt like. Somewhere in the galaxy, others like her were watching, learning, adapting, and for the first time in his long career as a hunter, he realized he had become the hunted. The cantina remained silent long after she was gone as 43 extinct species whispered warnings that would never be heard.